Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome again to all of our listeners around this country and across the world. This is episode 290. It's the second part of the personal work that David and Stirling did with Anita from Nairobi, Kenya.
And if you listened last week, you probably understand how I was really filled with admiration for Stirling from the time I first met him when he was just a medical student. But the magic that we had then, we still have today, and that was what I was pretty sure would happen. And how can you miss with someone as gentle and kind and brilliant as Stirling? And last week we empathized, we did the initial testing. Today we're going to assess resistance, and that's really the key to team CBT. That's the secret of rapid recovery. Try to bring her potential resistance to overcoming the social anxiety to conscious awareness, and then see if we can blow it away with the magic button, positive reframing, magic dial, and so forth. And then once we've done that, then we'll see if we can attack, challenge, and crush the negative thoughts that have been causing her intense anxiety in social situations. Mm-hmm. And I want to once again thank, first of all, Stirling, and just say, how much I've always admired you and what a gift it was getting to know you and learn from you. Even though you were my student, I learned so much about warmth and compassion and empathy. And I want to thank you too, Anita, for bearing your soul and making this amazing live work possible for so many people. And Jill Levitt told me something yesterday that it's sometimes hard to learn new psychotherapy techniques if you haven't seen them in action with real patients and seen them both failing sometimes and also working. And so that's one of the great gifts and important things about live work and the people who give us the opportunity to do live work by coming on the show and sharing their own problems and vulnerabilities the way Anita did. So I hope you love the episode, and I hope you learn a ton as well.
And then following that up with an endorsement that speaks to that, Jenny wrote you and said, "Thank you so much for everything you've done, Dr. Burns. Not only are you changing my life, but like hands reaching out, you're changing the lives of my family members and friends as I learn to check my cognitive distortions." And I think that's so poignant and wise, because really as one person heals, everyone around them heals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the Buddhist said that the explanation for that, and he said everything in mumbo jumbo terms, but you can translate it into English because there was tremendous wisdom in it, is that we're all one. And what that means then is that when you become enlightened, your whole universe will become enlightened too. Mm-hmm. And when I first heard that, I didn't know quite what it meant, but now I know what it means, and you know what it means, Rhonda, that when you overcome your own insecurities, and heaven knows we all get racked with them from time to time, and they can be agonizing. But when you blow them out of the water and crush those distortions and start to feel joy, that spreads to the people all around you as well. It's like a pebble in a pond, so to speak, with all the waves and ripples of joy
exactly
spread out as well. And so since I'm starting to sound like a blabbering elderly idiot, I will shut up so we can go on to the show.
Well, just one thing about the apprenticeship model is that you were humble enough to say that you learned from Stirling. Like, here, you were already a licensed, board-certified psychiatrist, one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, and Stirling came to work with you. And you could have easily been kind of arrogant, like, what is this guy's medical student? What does he have to teach me? But you were humble enough to say, wow, I can learn from him as much as he's learning from me. That's amazing.
Yeah, because often when I was stuck with really difficult patients who were shouting at me and angry and paranoid and, and I tried everything and nothing worked, I would say, Stirling, show us how the British approach works. And he would come in with his gentle questioning and warmth and stroking and that type of thing. And within minutes, they'd be sweet, loving lambs, just interacting sensibly and caringly. And I said, man, that is some, as the Buddha so often said, that's some good shit. and I want some of that. So that's how I worked really hard to try to learn from Stirling. And that's how I kind of came up with the 5 secrets of effective communication, giving names to the kinds of things he was just doing intuitively and spontaneously. But one other quick point about this apprenticeship model of training. I was always a very aggressive therapist, creative and quasi-confrontational, and I made up a lot of fantastic techniques that are still in vogue today. He, on the other hand, was shy in those days, insecure, quiet, and yet he had another form of power that came from his personality and his self, and that's one of the beautiful things. Team CBT and cognitive therapy, which isn't as good, but it's very similar in many ways, are highly systematic, clever, high technology forms of therapy, but they have to be delivered in a human way, using your own self, your own identity. That there has to be a heart there, a heart beating to bring the magic of recovery and enlightenment to the people you're working with.
That's well said. Okay, well, let's take a listen.
So let me ask you now, Anita, would you be ready to move on and maybe get to work on some things, or do you need more time to kind of vent and talk and have us understand you? Because I don't mean to jump in prematurely. We have a lot of pretty amazing tools to share with you, but I don't want to rob you of the time to talk and feel understood and cared about.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
And so then from a teaching point of view, we're going to go on to the A, the assessment of resistance, and then we'll go on to the M of methods. But the first question I would have for you here is, what are you hoping to gain from today's session? Suppose it's just terrific, and at the end of the session you say, that blew my socks off, that was really tremendously helpful. What would have happened?
I think some of the intensity of the emotions that I feel like, and probably the belief in, the way I think the way Stirling put it, I'm not so respectful to myself, and I beat myself up, could go down in terms of some of these negative thoughts and how I believe them so much.
Great. So I have a question for you. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, but suppose there was a big red magic button in front of you, and all you have to do is press it. And then the intensity of these negative feelings will go down to 0. You'll feel flooded with joy. And all of these self-critical thoughts will suddenly disappear, and you won't be beating up on yourself anymore. Will you press that button?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. There's some good news and some bad news here. The bad news is we don't have a magic button. The good news is we do have some magical techniques. And I believe that we could use those techniques and actually get the result that you're looking for. And I predict that is going to happen in today's session. But I don't I'm not convinced that we should use those techniques.
Why?
Well, because your negative thoughts and feelings, which you see as a curse or a problem, actually might have some hidden positives embedded in them. And so before we get too eager to make them disappear, maybe we should see if we can find some positives in your negative thoughts and feelings, and ask 3 questions about them. The first question is, why are your negative thoughts and feelings appropriate and maybe even healthy, given the circumstances when you're traveling to the group, or when you're returning at the end of a session with your supervisor where you got blasted and ripped to shreds. The second question would be, are there some ways that these negative thoughts and feelings might be helping you, benefiting you? Are there some advantages to thinking and feeling the way you are? And then the third question is, what do your negative thoughts and feelings show about you and your core values as a human being that's beautiful, positive, or even awesome? And to simplify this, let's just take a piece of paper, and I'm just writing, I have a blank piece of paper, and I'm writing positives at the top of it. And then we can together look at your oops, sorry, my earphones just came off. We can look at your negative thoughts and feelings one at a time and see if we can find some positives that might fit into one or more of those 3 categories. And let's start out with the one, say, going to group. And you had, 6 intense negative feelings, and 6 when we added the Rhonda thought, 6 negative thoughts. Like, for example, when your first negative thought, and we can do this for any negative thought and any negative feeling, but your first negative thought is, I will have nothing to say in group, and you believe that 100%. Now, can you think, Anita, of what that thought might say about you and your core values as a human being that's really beautiful, and maybe some benefits to you of having that thought, and maybe why that thought could be appropriate in some ways? And this is not the way most therapists think and the way most people think. And so, we'll jump in and help you if it doesn't make sense. I'm hoping it won't make sense, because then I'll have more impact, but it might make some sense. And that'll be cool, because we'll be working together as a team.
Okay, I think one that comes to mind for that thought would be maybe I'll listen and learn more from the group if I have nothing to say.
Great, I love that. Put that down, I'll listen and learn more. I love that. And is that true? Do you learn in the group?
Yeah, I do.
And you listen
and something.
Yeah,
yes.
Fantastic. So that's a huge thing. What are some other really great things about that thought, Anita?
I don't know, maybe you can help me. That one.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, I have 2 categories going through my mind really quickly here. Does that thought show that you have high standards? That you want to?
It does.
Okay, put that down. High standards, and have your high standards helped you in your life? Do they motivate you?
Yeah. They motivate me and help me to be better in whatever it is I'm doing.
Okay, put that down as well. Now, so I've got 3 things down. Now, when you say I'll listen, and learn more, does that show you to be, I mean, when you say I have nothing to say, does that show you to be an arrogant person or a humble person?
Humble.
Humble, is that a positive quality?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, put that down. Some people say that humility is actually a spiritual quality, and that's one of the reasons I like you, actually. That's one of the reasons I like Stirling. Because the first time Stirling sat in with me on a session, he said, I want you to know, Dr. Burns, I'm just a medical student, and I've never had any psychiatric residencies yet, rotations yet. And I don't know anything about psychology, so I don't want to have to say anything, when I'm in the session with you. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, don't worry, Stirling. We'll sit in a circle, the three of us. I don't want you sitting in a corner watching, but we'll sit in a circle, and I'll take the responsibility. I won't put you in the spotlight. And then I had this horribly difficult psychotic patient who was screaming and shouting about having seen John the Baptist on the way to the session, and there was a conspiracy with the police to prevent him from, getting these secrets from John the Baptist, who had been sent from God to the earth to give him these secrets to save the human race. And I was thinking, gosh, this guy is so crazy, he needs to take more medications. And I said, Stirling, what would be the British approach? And poor Stirling looks terrified, and his eyes were spinning in their sockets for about 15 seconds. And then Stirling leaned forward and said, well, I have a great interest in religion. And if John the Baptist was trying to give you some secrets about the spiritual problems of the human race, I'd want to know what they were. What did John the Baptist tell you? And the patient said, do you really want to know? And Stirling said, actually, I'm fascinating. And they got involved in this conversation, and I was completely excluded from the session. and the fellow calmed down. And at the end of the session, he said, oh, Dr. Burns, this is the best session we ever had. Will Professor, now he's calling him Professor Stirling, be with us next week? And I said, oh, yeah, he's going to be with us for a whole month. You can count on it. But yes, that humility is a beautiful thing. Now, another thing that I thought about that you can add to your list is your anxiety protects you maybe from speaking up and making a fool of yourself.
Yeah. Is
that important to protect yourself?
Very.
Okay, so you can put it down that it's your anxiety protects you. In fact, it's a form of self-love, your anxiety, because you love yourself to keep yourself safe. Now, we're just working on this one thought on one daily mood log. I've got 5 things so far, and let's let Rhonda and Anita and Stirling see if we can find any more positives in this negative thought.
I have a really big one. Anita, I wonder if you've noticed that there are sometimes people in groups who have lots to say, and they have so much to say that they don't care if anybody else gets a chance to speak up, and they don't care about other people. And I'm wondering if your thought about I have nothing to say is a reflection of how much you care about the other people in the group. And giving an opportunity for everyone. No, that's awesome.
Yes, it is. I mean, I've never thought of it, but I think, yeah, I do, because I do. So I am interested in what other people say. So yes, that resonates very well with me.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean, Rhonda. I've experienced that, and it's awkward as a group leader too, because sometimes David too has to learn to shut up. But yeah, that's a beautiful thing. We've got 6 things on this one thought so far. Anything else, Stirling, that you've seen?
Well, I was just building on what Rhonda was saying and what you've been saying. it's sort of the opposite of humility, isn't it? It's that you don't want, maybe one of the advantages of this is that you don't come across as pushy, as dominating, as sort of arrogant or self-obsessed as some people can do if they monopolize the conversation. So I don't know if that links in a little bit with what I've been saying, and is a really important thing, isn't it? You don't want to be like that sort of person.
Very true. Oh my!
I love that, Stirling. Now, so far we have 7 positives on 1 negative thought. Keep in mind, we have 6 negative thoughts and 6 negative feelings. So if you multiply, our list could end up with 40 or 50 things on it. We don't have time to list that many things, but let's just look at the 7 things we've got so far just from one thought. Do these things seem true to you?
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. Do they seem powerful?
Some more than others, but they are powerful.
Do they seem important?
Very.
Very important. So let me ask Stirling to take another round of this. Stirling, taking one of the thoughts or feelings from either of these daily mood logs, and take a second round of.
What do you think, Anita, if we had to take one of those that you think might be sort of more core? Is there one of those that?
I think the second one. They are all better therapists than me.
They're all better therapists than me. Yeah. And again, looking at the positives, what might be good about having that belief? What might that say about you that is consistent with, your values, how you see yourself?
I think one, it shows my humility, and it gives room for me to learn from people who are, either are ahead of me and are who I aspire to be like, but it leaves me open to learn from them.
Yeah. So if you're thinking that they're better therapists than you, that opens the door to learn from them. Yeah.
Yes.
And also it's a sign that, that you're not as someone who's learning therapy, putting yourself out there as an expert and pretending that it's that arrogant side again. You're not being arrogant. Yeah. Any other positive things about that thought that they're all better therapists than me?
It shows that I want to grow, and I want to that I do. For me, like even reading, that I do want to be better.
Yeah. And it's those having those high standards then, as David was saying, is it sort of linking in with that positive value that you want to do a really good job.
And is that true, Anita, that you want to grow as a therapist and become better and more skillful?
Yes.
Is that important?
Very important to me.
Is that powerful?
Very.
Neat. I love that. What else does that thought, they're all better therapists than me, show about you that's really beautiful?
I don't know.
Well, I can give you a little help with it if you like.
Yes, please.
Well, does that show that you're honest and realistic about your flaws and shortcomings?
Yeah.
Is that important?
To me, it is.
Put that down. And because we know some people in the world who aren't so honest about their shortcomings. I won't name names because we don't want to get political, but we love people who are honest about their flaws. Does that thought show, Anita, that you're accountable?
Yeah.
Is that important, to be accountable?
Yes, it is.
Put that down. And that thought that they're all better therapists than me shows something else about you that's really beautiful.
What's that?
Any ideas? Anybody?
Well, it's sorry. Well, I think it's that we very easily that there's a Buddhist term called mudita, which is called it's vicarious joy. It's taking pleasure in the pleasure of another, and that maybe seeing others as better therapists than you allows you to actually not just learn from them, but also rejoice in what they can do. I mean, I think that, when we see David's skillfulness in his application of therapy, all these therapy techniques, there's really sort of an admiration and appreciation for his skill. I don't know, is that something that is a good thing or not? I don't know. Maybe we don't want to put thoughts into your head. Yes, because when I see, it's very true. And I see, notwithstanding my own growth, when I see other people growing, I do get joy, like people who are close to me. Yeah. And they are moving ahead, and so there is joy in what other people can do, and in so it's where joy I know I have good fortune and skill, and I'm wondering if actually that's a sort of a quality that not many of us have. We're very good at Schadenfreude, at this idea of rejoicing in other people's discomfort and discomfiture. But we're not always so good at when people are doing well and so on in celebrating that. And I wonder if that's something about you that is an important value.
Yes, it is.
That you value other, you rejoice in other people's growth and success and good fortune. Yeah, which is lovely. It's so beautiful, because I think it's not that common in humanity.
Yeah, I get jealous of people. I don't like it when they're more skillful, except for you, Stirling and Rhonda, and Jill. I'm getting over that in my old age. But I really appreciate, seeing the beautiful work that people does. And is that a gift to other people?
Mm. The gift to other people, Anita?
Like, are you giving Rhonda and David and Stirling a gift right now in admiring us?
I think it is, because I think, and because sometimes people might just not see. Sometimes it's nice to hear. But I think it is a gift when you show people that you do appreciate what they do.
Put that down, because I feel that greatly here today. In fact, that your appreciation is what brought us all together.
May I ask a question?
No.
Okay. Well,
that you can ask one, and that was it. That was the only one you got.
Then I'll just say that, Anita, I noticed when Stirling brought that up that most people are very good at rejoicing in people's discomfort, but asking you about rejoicing in other people's success that, the look, you looked visibly more relaxed, and you paused for a moment. And I'm wondering, in that moment, exchange between the two of you, what were you feeling, and what were you thinking? What were you thinking about yourself?
That I actually do. I do get excited by other people's successes. And I never saw it as a good thing or something to be, and just the way he's put it, I'm like, wow, this is a really nice thing. So it's nice to hear it.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And it's real too. It's not just a lot of BS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a question now for everybody, including you, Anita. We could focus and see if we can polish off the first daily mood log now, going on to methods, and then see about the second daily mood log, the anger one with the supervisor. Or we could go on to do reframing with some of the angry thoughts and then blow them both away at the same time when we go to methods. And I'm open to either path. They're both super good paths. You have any feel for that, Stirling?
Off the top of my head, I'm just I'd like to check out with Anita whether some of those angry thoughts and feelings feel rather unacceptable, and if so, whether it would be useful to look at their value, or whether you'd like to go on to methods.
I don't think they feel unacceptable. I think
Good.
I don't like the intensity.
Intensity, yeah.
But I don't think any emotion is unacceptable.
Excellent.
I struggle with I struggle with the intensity. I like your second suggestion, David.
Yeah.
To do a little bit with the angry thoughts and then blow them both out at the same time.
Okay, this is going to be fantastic. Now, look at your angry thoughts. There were 6 of them, and which one? I mean, they're all 100% true. Which one is the most upsetting to you?
I wasted a year and did not achieve anything.
Okay, number 2. I wasted a year. One of the reasons I like this positive reframing that we're doing is it's so unintuitive, because one could think, how could there be anything positive about this thought? I wasted a year and did not achieve anything. And it sounds so devastating and so valid and so overwhelming. But again, the 3 questions: why might this thought be appropriate or even healthy? Number 2, how might this thought be helpful to you? And number 3, what does this thought show about you and your core values that's positive and awesome? So does anything kind of come to mind, Anita?
That I do take value in working hard and doing a good job.
Would you put that down? That's number 14 on my list. Value hard work, doing a good job, and can I add, and learning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that true, Anita?
Yes, it is.
Is that important?
It's very important to me.
Is that powerful?
Yeah.
Great. What are some other positives in that thought? That's super.
That, like, linked with the thought and linked with the emotion, is that I do. It's important to me what other people think about me and see.
Put that down. Put that down.
And what's important about that? What do you want them? What's the value there? What do you want them to see in you?
I think it can be. It's not hard to hear the negative, but so long as it's true, and it's honest, I'd want them to see me, whoever that is at that time.
So if we had to put that into words, the positive of that is that
I want to be seen.
You want to be seen for who you are. Is it
Who I
just
am.
for who you are? Yeah.
Who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that important to you, as David would ask?
It's very important to me.
I don't know if I can interrupt with a brief story. I do a lot of storytelling, Stirling, and I try to get a lot of laughter in the therapy too. And forgive me, sometimes my stories are wonderful, and sometimes people say, "When is the guy going to shut up?" But when I came out to California from Philadelphia, I had previously lived when I was a medical student here in California, and then we got stuck in Philadelphia for 20 years. We finally made it home, and a colleague asked me to go and teach at Kaiser, where he was working. I had known him. He was a psychologist when I was a medical student. We were friends. We used to do, a lot together. And so I went down, drove, once a week for half a day and did workshops for his staff at the Kaiser, mental health. And I was trying to do empathy training. And I was also telling them to get the feedback after every session. And he refused to use the scales the ones that you have just taken and will take at the end of the session, because he said he knew how his patients felt, and also he was giving empathy training all in Northern California. He was identified as one of Kaiser's top therapists because he's handsome and he's charismatic. But when I saw him in the role plays, he did not look good to me. When suppose a patient said this, what are you going to say next? And I was very worried. And then because I didn't feel like he was really picking up on what I was trying to teach. And then he called me one day and said, "David, something terrible has happened." And I said, "Well, what? I'm concerned. I won't say his name. I'll call him John. I'm concerned, John. What happened?" And he said, "Well, I got my feedback from Kaiser. They had just started giving feedback, like you just got your feedback from your supervisor. They'd started surveying patients, and they told him he had one of the lowest ratings in the United States, and that they put him on probation, and he was just in tears, and I was sad for him, but I was not at all surprised, because I could see in the way he was doing in the training exercises, he wasn't open to negative feedback. And so he said, what should I do? And I said, well, John, I think we should celebrate. And he said, why should we celebrate? I'm on the verge of losing my job. And I said, we can celebrate for two reasons. First, anyone can celebrate when you are successful, but you need celebration when you're feeling down. But in addition, we can celebrate that this can be such a big transition for you, because now you can start using the feedback scales with every patient at every session, and you can start doing the things I was trying to teach. And then at the next 6 months evaluation, we'll see a huge change. And then in your workshops that you give to your colleagues, you can tell them, you suck and I sucked, and you don't know it. But if you find out and start to act on the feedback, you can transform your clinical work, and then you can give a truly amazing workshops to your colleagues. So he started using the scales and modifying the way he talked to his patients using the 5 secrets of effective communication. And then at the next 6-month evaluation, he got the highest rating of any doctor in the United States in the Kaiser system. And I just wanted to pass that along because you had a similar situation. And you know, some of the mystics have talked about the dark night of the soul. That's what Marilyn had in her session, where you feel that everything in your life is falling apart and that you feel like you're a nothing. And that's often the first and important step on the path to enlightenment. So there's David's probably boring story, but I just want to pass that along to you. And I think we might have lost your sound.
No.
Oh, no, we've got you.
You can't hear me? No.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
I think that was just such a great story that we're kind of all stunned into silence, just letting it soak in.
Yeah. The celebration of our failures, it seems so unintuitive, but I'm celebrating you right now, Anita, and what a beautiful person you are and how much you have to give and share.
Thank you.
We're going to make this flower just open up today.
I look forward to that.
So do you folks think it might be time to do the magic dial and then go on to some methods? Anita, so you know, if you press that magic button, I've got 16 beautiful things about you that I've written down. I'm sure your list is somewhat similar. And if we press that magic button, you'll go into a state of euphoria, but then all of these negative things about you are going to go down the toilet. And why in the world would you want to do that? I mean, look at all the positives that you listen and you learn more in the group when you tell yourself, I have nothing to say. It protects you from speaking up and making a fool of yourself. It's a form of self-love. It shows you have high standards, and your high standards have motivated you, and shows that you're a humble, beautiful, kindly person that others can feel close to. And it shows how much you care for the others in the group, and shows that you're not pushy, dominating, and arrogant, to quote Stirling. You're a little bit like Stirling, like this quiet, beautiful, somewhat undiscovered gem. And you have room to learn from people who are ahead of you, and you want to learn from them. And you want to grow in your life and become a better therapist, and shows that you're realistic and honest about your flaws, your limitations, your skills, shows that you're accountable, and it shows that you have Buddhist vicarious joy in the accomplishments of others. That's a new concept for me, and it's such a neat one. You appreciate the skills of others, and that's a gift that you give to people. And then when you say, I wasted a year, it shows that you value hard work, that you value doing a good job, you value learning, and that's important to you what other people think, and that you want to be seen for who you are. And why would you want to then press that magic button and have all of this disappear and more?
Oh, if I'm going to lose like this as well, then no, I wouldn't want to press it. If I'm going to lose these 16 things I hadn't seen about myself.
Well, there's more than 16. There's over 30 or 40. We just don't have time.
But the ones we've just seen.
Yeah.
The 16 I've seen like right now in this session.
So what are we going to do then, Anita?
Well, I think, like I said, is there any way to like reduce the intensity, but not lose this as well?
Let's see if we can do that. Let's do the going to work one first. how sad, we'll put this in the gold column of the daily mood log next to the percent before, you were 100 on the way to the group, sad, depressed, and unhappy. What would be an appropriate amount of sadness to feel on the way to group?
Maybe 20.
Okay, that was 90. I'm looking at the wrong daily mood log, but you were unhappy 90, and 20 would be a goal, going to peer support group. And then you were 100 on the anxiety cluster. What would be an appropriate amount of anxiety?
10.
10, we'll write that in the goal column. And is that enough anxiety for you?
Yeah, more than enough.
Okay, you feel inferior and defective 100. What would be a healthy amount of inferior and defective?
5.
5, great. And then how self-conscious would you want to feel? That was 100.
20.
20. And how frustrated? That was 90.
10.
10. How irritated and upset? That was 100.
Same 10.
10, great. Now let's look at the supervisor one, getting bad feedback from your supervisor. That the sad, depressed, down, unhappy was 100. What would be an appropriate amount of downness after getting slammed by your supervisor?
20.
20. And how anxious and worried would you want? That was 100.
25.
25. And how ashamed do you want to feel? That was 90.
20.
20. And how inferior, worthless, inadequate, and incompetent would you want to feel?
5.
5. Great. How rejected? That was 80.
5.
5. And how embarrassed, foolish, humiliated, and self-conscious? That was 100.
20.
And how hopeless and despairing? That was 90.
10.
10. How frustrated and defeated? That was 100.
10.
10. Great. And then how mad, annoyed, and upset?
20.
20. Great. And so now I think we're ready to go on to methods. Any comments or questions anyone has before we dive into the next piece of the TEAM? Maybe, Anita, you could tell us, what was this assessment of resistance piece like for you? How did you experience that?
I think it was so nice to see those, like you say, they're probably like even more than 50, but just even the 16 was just so nice to see. And I, when I first started, I couldn't think of one. Like one
exactly. That's what happened.
There were just like so many more.
Yeah, you get stuck in this negative thing that you're trying to fight, and the more you fight against it, the more trapped you become, and the more awful you feel. And then when you accept it and see the beauty in it, you can actually be proud of your feelings and your anger and your anxiety and your guilt and shame and inadequacy. And the odd thing is, when you become proud of these things instead of ashamed, suddenly the resistance kind of disappears, and then recovery is sometimes just a stone's throw away. I'm so glad that you had that experience, and it is kind of shocking in a pleasant way for people. So if you're ready, we just choose, let's start with the group thoughts. Choose a thought on that first daily mood log, going to the peer supervision thing, and we can focus on all these 5 negative thoughts. And the 6th from Rhonda, they're all really excellent, and it makes no difference which one you choose, and then we can see what we can do to see if we can challenge that thought.
I really should not be here. The third one.
Great. Now you found some distortions in that thought, and let's see if you could explain a few of those to us, like discounting the positive, or overgeneralization, or should statement, or all or nothing thinking, or mental filtering, or fortune telling. But to explain some of those distortions to us, because I love the list that you came up with.
Well, I guess I'll start with the most obvious in terms of the should statement. It's, I should not be here.
Right.
And I think it leads on to so many of the others. I'm just making a presumption that I shouldn't be there based on what I'm feeling.
So can we add emotional reasoning then to the list of distortions? Emotional reasoning.
Oh, yes.
I feel like I shouldn't be here, so I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I love that. Tell us more about those distortions. Teach us about why these distortions are present in this thought. I love what you're saying so far.
All or nothing thinking, because either I should be there or I shouldn't. There's no in between. There's over generalization, discounting any positive I could bring to the group by that statement.
Exactly. What are some positives?
I should not be there, therefore I have nothing to give.
Yeah, exactly. And why are those distortions? Discounting the positive and the idea that you have nothing to give.
Well, they're not based on truth. I might not have as much to give as I want, but I do have something to give.
Okay, how much do you believe what you just said?
100%.
Would you put that in the right-hand column, the positive thought column? I'm doing it, by hand here. You just said, say it out so I can write it down too.
I may not have as much to give as I want, but I do have something to give.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I love that statement.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about that statement and what we bring to a group of that kind. So I'm thinking one thing that we bring is therapy expertise, but actually we go to a group to learn the therapy expertise, don't we? So what is it that people can bring? I mean, I'm not expressing this very well, but I'm just sort of interested. You come into a group to learn. We're not expecting ourselves to know it all. So what's the contribution that is most helpful to the group? What sorts of things do you find when you're in a group?
What do I, Anita, have to give to this group?
Yeah.
The only thought that comes to my mind is myself.
Would you put that down?
Yeah.
I have myself to give. Is that true?
Yes.
How true is that?
It's also 100%. I think the one thing I've learned from team is that I can be me.
Put that down.
Yeah.
Put that down. How much do you believe that I can be me?
100%.
Great. Now, let me, you remember externalization of voices, Stirling? Double standard?
Yes, I use it a lot.
Okay. Why don't you take over here and either go in double standard direction, which would be a gentle technique, or externalization of voices, which would be an aggressive technique?
I think, well, let's try externalization. I think if you're up for it, Anita, I think that hopefully by now you're feeling a little bit stronger. So if I was some of these negative thoughts, can you defend yourself and tell me why I, as your internal critic, why I'm wrong? Let's have a go. You're right, ready to have a go? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So it's yes. So so I'll talk to you. So it always gets confusing with externalizer voices as which pronoun we use. So you'll say, you shouldn't be here in this group.
I don't agree. I think that I have something to offer. I was invited here for a reason. And, once I get my feet in, I'm going to get my courage and I'm going to speak and I'm going to give what I have and share what I have, the knowledge that I have that will help other people in the group.
Well, you're convincing me already. Let's see if I can gird my loins with some more.
Let me just ask you a quick question. Who won the exchange, Anita?
Me.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge, exactly. And how did you win huge?
Because I showed how untrue it was. For me, I just showed the untruth in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did that feel, saying that?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Neat.
That's great, isn't it? Did it feel like you were being? Did it feel like you were being you?
I'm learning to have that voice. Yes.
Okay.
I'm learning. It's not always there, but I'm learning.
Quite you yet, but yeah, lovely. Okay. How about if I say, oh yes, but you're just fooling yourself. All these other people in the group are much better therapists.
Part of that is true because there are some who have been therapists longer than me, and they have more knowledge than me in their field. But in some areas, I might be better than them. In some areas, I might be, I'll learn from them. But not all of them better than me. And I think we all have our skills and we all have our skill set. So it's not true that they're all better than me.
Right. And again, asking David's question, who won the exchange there?
I did.
Big or small?
I wanted big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Nice. But I want to take over. We'll do tag team, and I'm a negative Anita right now, and I know you beat down that other Anita over there, but you're never going to beat me down because I want to remind you that you Anita have nothing to say.
Well, I've just shown even in this group that I have something to say. And, it might always not be as great as other people, but I think I always have something to say. I'm always going to have something to say.
Great. Who won?
Me, but just big.
Just big. Do a role reversal. You be the negative Anita, and we'll make Stirling the positive Anita.
Okay. Well, you just have nothing to say and you have nothing to add.
Well, some of these people have been therapists for a long time and they may know a lot about therapy techniques, but I've been me for a long time and I have all of the knowledge and experience of being a human being. And there's always something that I can bring to the conversation, even if I know very little about it. Even if I just ask the right questions, that may be very valuable to the group and they may value that contribution.
Wow.
How did that feel to hear?
You won that huge.
How did he win at huge, Anita?
Oh, just the statement I've just been me. And I value, and the value of being a human being.
Right. And you really see that now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do a role reversal back. And
okay,
Stirling.
So I've got nothing to say here in this group.
That's not true. I think we all have something to say and we all have a voice. and there might be some people who have more to say. And I think I had a lot to say as me, and I'll continue having a lot to say as me. And part of what I say, I'll even use that to learn from other people in asking the right questions and saying things in the right way.
So who won?
I think I did.
Yeah. So on David's scale, big or huge or massive or?
I think that one was massive.
Yeah.
Great. But I have one last thing to tell you. You've blown away all these other thoughts, Anita, but there's one that you're never going to be able to blow away. Are you ready for the devastation that I'm about to impose on you?
Yes, I am.
This is the Putin thought. Blow you away. And the thought is this: you will never feel comfortable in group situations.
I think the truth is I always feel slightly uncomfortable in groups, but I think I'm getting better and better in how I feel about them and even speaking in groups. I think I've come a long way from when I couldn't even say a word to where I am now. The truth is that there will always be some discomfort, but it's not going to be as much as it has been.
Great. Who won?
Me.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Awesome. Now let's just see how you're feeling about the group situation. Then we'll go on to the other daily mood log. How down are you feeling right now?
I don't know, maybe 5.
5, great. I'll put that in the after column. How anxious, worried, panicky, and frightened are you feeling?
0.
0, fantastic. How inferior and inadequate are you feeling?
Right now, 0.
0. And how self-conscious are you feeling?
0.
0. And how frustrated do you feel?
0.
And how irritated and upset are you feeling?
0.
0. And so you had really dramatic changes, and I have two questions for you. Also, I'll never feel comfortable in group, and I just thought of another thing we could have said on that one. I'm already feeling comfortable in group. This is a group with hundreds of people.
Mm.
Well, it's going to be.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
On the podcast.
Yeah, isn't that cool? If we take that route, in fact, it'll be more than 10,000.
Oh my God!
But that we'll decide that later. But
yeah.
What was helpful to you here? What caused these dramatic changes?
I think that I was able to speak against those in terms of externalization of voices, speak against those voices. I think I really love that technique.
Yeah.
And I think someone said it's not just a mind shift, it's a body shift. You feel it everywhere when you make that connection and you feel that actually this is just absolutely not true.
Yeah, is that amazing how we can tell ourselves, put ourselves in hell with these statements that aren't true, and in fact you have tremendous to offer. You're offering tremendous right at this very moment.
Yeah. And also, Anita, what I noticed was when you were defeating these thoughts in a really huge way, you defended yourself and argued against them, but you also found some acceptance within them. Mm-hmm. Like the last one, I'll never be comfortable in groups. You did say, well, that will always be a little bit true. And then you went on. So there was a little bit of acceptance, and then you went on to add, but you have questions, you have yourself to share. So you will feel comfortable. And so there is that balance between acceptance and self-defense.
Yeah.
And you did that. They're all better therapists than me. You did exactly the same thing. Just say a lot of them are great therapists. That's why it's a fun group to attend. And at the same time, I have my own skills to contribute as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's just check the timing of people right now. I have more time to blow away this other daily mood log. I don't know the schedule that other people have.
I'm okay for time.
I'm okay for time.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm leaving. Goodbye, everyone. Yeah, that's great. That's great. We'll go on to the second daily mood log.
Just before we do that, can I don't know if you would be doing this at the end, but something that I might like to be thinking about as a method would be thinking about, as well as really sort of knocking back these thoughts. I have sort of a cricket analogy or a baseball analogy in my mind at the moment. You're really hitting them for a home run or whatever you baseball people do. But also, as well as that, there's something that you're doing behaviorally. We talked about behavioral experiments, didn't we? And each time you go into that group, in a way, you're doing an experiment to test whether those negative thoughts are coming true or not. And I wonder if you had any ideas on how you can make sure that each time you go into the group, you can use that as an opportunity to bat away some of those negative thoughts.
Or to make it more specific, we could give you a homework assignment the next time you go to group.
You can really,
and then you can email us. You can report back on the results of your experiment. What would that experiment be, Anita?
Well, that I'd have to, in terms of my discomfort of speaking in a group.
Right. What would you do in group?
I'd have to say something and speak and speak up in group.
Sure. What would you say?
I don't know. It depends on what the topic is, but I would just say something. I would give some feedback in some way. And
okay.
It's not on the chat. I would raise my hand and speak.
Okay, that's the first assignment. Okay, so you can write that down. What's the second we're going to ask you to do in group?
I don't know. A survey.
Well, yeah, a survey, exactly. And what would the survey be?
Whew.
Getting hot and sweaty now?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know. My mind has gone blank.
Okay. You can say that in group too. I did that once in a talk before 500 women. And my mind went blank. And so I just told them, and they all started laughing. It turned into a good thing. Could you ask them? I have some ideas. You can see what you'd like to do, but maybe say, I want to do a little survey. What percentage of you sometimes feel insecure here in the group and are afraid to speak up? And then the second question you could ask would be, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Rhonda and Stirling might have some ideas too, but could you also say, I've sometimes tell myself, I don't have anything to offer in the group and that you're all way ahead of me. Have any of you felt when I've spoken or when I speak, do any of you feel that how do you feel about me right now as doing this survey and speaking up? Something like that.
I like the second one.
You like the second one?
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Yeah. Yeah, find out how they think about you, how they think and feel about you. Yeah, good, great.
Okay.
Very good. Yeah. And
may I follow up on that?
Yeah.
So, Anita, are you willing to do that on Wednesday morning when we first come into the group?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. And then will you send an email to Stirling and David and Rhonda? You can either put in the email, you can say mission accomplished or I stubbornly refused.
Okay. Yep.
Great, really interested to hear. And it's all about Anita being Anita, isn't it? So hearing what's it like? I'd really like to hear when you email us. What was it like for Anita to let herself be Anita in this group?
I'm actually going to push myself. I'm going to do it twice because I'm in Mike Christensen's group. I'm going to ask the first question in Mike Christensen's group, and then I'm going to ask the second one in Rhonda's group.
Great, yeah. And by the way, this idea of being yourself, I never thought of what that meant until today. I've heard it ever since I've been a kid, just be yourself. But it's actually, it seems to me, it has to do with this spiritual enlightenment where you just suddenly discover that you're not special and you don't have to be special. And when you give up the need to be special, life becomes special. And so it just being an Anita just means sharing your vulnerability, sharing your thoughts, and then you let the chips fall where they may, and you see what happens. That's what the Buddha meant when he was talking about the great death of the self. And it's the great death of the special self, the self that needs to be special, needs to impress people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a neat idea. Might not have made any sense to you, but maybe it will.
It does.
Oh, it does? Yeah. Yeah,
I think the older I've got, the more I've learned to let go.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So let's take a look at this other daily mood log. What's the thought there on that second one about terrible review from my supervisor after 11 months of work, and we've got 6 negative thoughts, and we've done our reframing and ready to tackle one of these thoughts.
I think the 5th one, I should not have been given this job.
Okay. And then you said that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 distortions in it. Explain some of those a little bit.
I guess because of the all or nothing, just because of one bad review, there's no in between. I should have or not should. It's all or nothing. There's no gray. There's no in between. Mental filter and discounting the positive. There was some positive feedback I got, maybe not particularly from that person, but from other people that I interacted with. So I discounted all of that. I'm completely overgeneralized to the negative, that I shouldn't have gotten this because I did such a bad job based on what this person said. Blaming myself, self-blame. I should not have been given, and then the positives, the should statement is just there. I shouldn't have. It's a quite direct should statement, and shows the distortion that just because I didn't do good enough for this person doesn't mean I shouldn't have been given that job.
How much do you believe what you just said? Just because this person criticized me, it doesn't mean I shouldn't have been given this job.
I believe it 100%.
Put that in the right-hand column.
Okay.
And so did you put 100 in the belief column?
Yes.
Great. Now, how much do you believe I should not have been given this job?
Maybe it's gone down to about 50.
So put a line through the 100, and in that same column, put a 50 underneath it. Now let's see if we can get it. Do you want to get it down further?
Yes.
Okay. We've got that negative Anita over there with a white beard.
Mm.
So do your thing.
I'm going to do my thing. So, yeah, you weren't up to this, Anita. You shouldn't have been given the job.
I think there's so many good things that I did in this job. And I think there's so many good things that I tried to achieve. Maybe some of them didn't pan out, but I did work. I don't agree I shouldn't have been given this job. I guess what I do agree with is there's some things I could have improved on and done differently.
Mm. So how much did you win that exchange?
Yes.
Yeah. And big, huge, small?
Big. Sorry, huge.
Huge. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. I loved what you said there, but could I talk to you for a minute, Anita?
Sure.
I just want to remind you that you work so hard for nothing.
That's like pretty hard to hear, but I don't think I did it for nothing. I think I worked hard and it showed, and maybe my supervisor didn't see it, but I think a lot of other people in the organization did. So I don't think I did it for nothing.
Great. Who won?
Me.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Big.
Big. Okay, want to do a role reversal?
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you want to be the positive Anita?
You.
Okay, go ahead. Be the negative Anita.
Okay. You know what? You worked so hard for nothing for those 11 months.
Well, that's, as the Buddha so often said, so much horseshit. You can find that in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the holy Buddhist scriptures. It was a real disappointment to get slammed by my supervisor, but I did a lot of good things at this job, and I'm learning. I may need to learn to do some things differently, and in particular, maybe I need to learn how to respond to people who are criticizing me, like using the disarming technique and stroking. So I can turn critics into my allies and my supporters. But it's definitely not the case that I work so hard for nothing. In fact, this can be a real opportunity for me to begin doing some things differently, to improve my skills, maybe use the brief mood survey, and develop stronger skills. I'm going to be like the phoenix bird that rises from the ashes. But I do have a problem, working hard for nothing. That didn't happen. That's not my problem. But I do have another problem.
What's that?
Listening to your BS, putting me down constantly. So who won?
You.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. And how did I win huge?
Oh, I think it was rising up like a phoenix and using this as an opportunity to improve, as opposed to just taking the criticism and wallowing in it.
yeah, exactly. So Stirling is going to see if you got it. He'll be the negative Anita and slam you the way I did, and see if you can defeat him.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick up on the fact that you got this negative review from your supervisor, and so he must be, or she must be, the most important person and know most about your performance. So you should listen to them rather than yourself or any of these other people who've given you good feedback.
I don't think so. I think that some of what my supervisor said was true, and there are areas that I need to improve on. But like she rightfully said, she didn't know whether I'd done a good job or not in some of them because she wasn't in the session, so she wasn't there listening to me, interacting with these people. So I think I can listen to the areas where I do need to improve. But there's some that I don't need to listen to. And I most definitely don't need to listen to the negative voice in my head that said I work so hard for nothing. And I won that huge.
You won that huge. Well done. And so what was it that was powerful ammunition for you in that?
That I don't have to listen to that voice in my head.
Yeah.
That it can come, but I don't have to listen to it as much as I do, or as strongly as I do.
Yeah.
By the way, that has a formal name. It's called the counterattack technique, or CAT, counterattack technique. And that's a third strategy in externalization of voices. You can have self-defense, the acceptance paradox, and then the counterattack technique. There's other techniques as well, but those are the three major ones. And that's a new one that just evolved about 2 years ago, Stirling. I was doing it, but didn't notice that I was doing it in externalization of voices. And then I named it, and I think it's a nice addition. And it's just the basic cognitive message that it's not the events, but our thoughts that create our misery. And it's just reminding ourselves that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that a lot of the externalization of voices and the sort of the schema dialogue type work, one does it intuitively and finds ways of answering back, but it's really nice to then sort of categorize so that you can, more effectively target which way you're going. Which is good. Yeah.
Well, anyway, you're beating us down, but Rhonda's going to hit you now with one that's truly devastating.
Anita, wow. There's just no point in doing any of this thankless work.
Sometimes it does seem like there's no point to it, and there are times that it is thankless. But I think there's so much point to it because there's so many people I am helping. And there's so many people who have benefited from what I've done. So amidst all the thanklessness, there is stuff that I did, and there are people that I helped.
And who won that, Anita?
Me.
Was that small or big?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Yay.
Yeah, nice. Why don't we just see if we can bring it to a little bit of closure this session? How did you feel about today's session, and what did you learn, especially focusing on the social anxiety aspect?
I think that part was just so helpful. I think for me, what came out of it is the truth of your statement, David, that the monster has no teeth.
The truth is what?
The truth of the statement, the monster has no teeth. When you
right. Yeah,
you go
exactly.
into your anxiety, and face it head on. It has no teeth. Because the monster has lost its teeth for me in terms of, and hopefully the next time I'm in that kind of situation, this is what I'll remember, and this is what I'll be able to do, in my mind, even externalization of voices or whatever, so that I'm talking these, if they come, I'm talking myself out of them way faster than sitting in them and getting uncomfortable and leaving the group early because I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah, that sounds great. And then remember your homework assignment. I think Rhonda can send you.
Rhonda will remember.
Oh, yeah.
Can
I've written myself a little note. Yes.
Can send you the recording via Dropbox or some mechanism, and I think it'd be useful for you to listen probably to the entire thing if you have the time. I know it's a big time commitment, but these are big issues as well. And I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to work with us and to get to know you on a little bit deeper level. Thank you so much, Anita.
You're welcome, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.